The next big game from Remedy won't be Alan Wake 2.
At the time when Quantum Break was announced is when you mentioned how Alan Wake 2 cannot happen because of budgets. Now it is out. Now you guys did it, and you did it in such a big way. And I remember I talked to Ilka, and he was mentioning how Alan Wake 2 in some ways needed those 13 years to build in a way that it did, because the game looks, I think, the best it looked ever from Remedy visually. It looks incredible. What do you think about this insane 13 years journey of making of Alan Wake 2?
Well, if there is a learning, don't give up on your dreams.
Absolutely.
I love all of our games. I'm really proud of everything that we have done. But somehow already back then, Alan Wake felt special to me and close to my heart. And you know, leaving the poor guy in the dark place. It was always a plan to come back and continue the story. So it just felt that I wanted to keep on trying. We were looking for a way, and it took a long time. But also something that I've said is that all of those different versions of the game, looking back, none of them come even close to the concept and vision of Alan Wake 2 and what we achieved. So I'm really happy it took that long, and I'm really happy that we didn't get to make any of those early ones. I mean, I'm sure that they would all have been satisfying sequels, but somehow I feel that what we got here, and taking all the learnings from along the way, from Quantum Break, from Control, and building on those, it just ended up being something else, and something very kind of I feel a clear step forward in our thinking of what can we do in a game at Remedy. So I'm really happy it took that long, but I'm also really happy that we didn't abandon the idea and the dream of we'll find a way.
And I know with Alan Wake 2, we had a new character, Saga Anderson. Why wouldn't you just keep Alan Wake in Alan Wake 2 only? And why was it important to bring another character in?
To me, on the story side, this idea of duality, and kind of two sides of the experience just kept on growing stronger and stronger, and we had different versions of this when in our concepts, but as a starting point, this kind of a setup of even inside our character, even inside Alan Wake, these two sides, and light and darkness, and expanding on this idea of doubles and two worlds, the dark place and Washington State. More and more it felt like this is kind of two side-by-side stories connected. So it was calling for another character. And then I also felt that because it's been such a long time, we need to kind of find a way to bring new people into this experience who have maybe not played it, or played it years and years ago and don't really remember it. And also it just felt that there is no way out of the idea that Alan Wake is still trapped in the dark place, and that already kind of drops you quite deep into our crazy supernatural lore. That it felt like it's too much for to start the experience, and we need to kind of find a way to come into this world not knowing anything and start learning, and all of that then kind of started pointing towards an idea of another character, somebody who comes in and start investigating, somebody who can be a strong hero, to save him essentially in many ways.
Yeah.
And all of these ideas then led us to Saga Anderson, who is a professional investigator and has kind of like the experience, the professional experience to start piecing this mystery together. And that really kind of was the setup for Saga's character.
I thought it was brilliant. I really enjoyed everything, and Melanie was amazing as Saga.
Wonderful actor. Yes.
What was your experience like working with her?
Well, she's great, and kind of like how we approach all of our characters, and more along the way, working with Hannah Price, who is our performance director, and like we were working with Hannah already in Control, and how we started kind of approaching it when we had actors coming in, we would always kind of talk about the character and kind of do this workshop with them in the beginning. Not everything is really kind of like set to stone, like you know, personality and bits and pieces of the background. There is room to explore, and Hannah's method has always been that let's involve the actor, which I really, really love, and we sit down and start talking about the character and you know, really make it the actor's version of it. And so this is what we did with Mel as well, started talking about it and exploring ideas of her backstory and you know, likes and dislikes. And then we have the early shoots. Working with an actor, you discover a lot of things. Also like, okay, that really, really resonated even stronger than we imagined when we wrote the line. Or then some other bits is like, okay, that's not really kind of like, we are not finding this part. So, and because Game Project is such a long project, we are writing more and more material along the way. But that allows you, okay, let's lean into these things that are really working well. So you get to kind of like, you know, together also shape the character. And that to me is kind of if you can do it, is an essential way of really building a believable character with the actor in question. And this is what we did with Mel. And I feel we found Saga really kind of like along the way.
And with that, like Alex Casey comes in and you played Casey. It was so cool to see you. And it's amazing how Casey is also an FBI agent with Saga, but in Alan Wake's dark world, he is a little not exactly the Alex Casey that we saw with Saga, and he felt like more Max Payne. Was that kind of direction to be with when it comes to we seeing Alex Casey from Alan's point of view or Alan's world? Was that always the kind of the plan of like, let's make him a little bit sort of like Max?
Yeah, it's really kind of like, I love film noir. I love hard-boiled fiction.
Yeah.
And that's why Max Payne is what it is. And this felt like an opportunity to go back to those inspirations and kind of like come back to it all these years later and build Alex Casey's character out of these ideas. And so spoilers, I guess is fine at this point, but the idea being that we do discover that you know, for Alan Wake writing fiction, he's been having these visions that he hasn't even understood are visions from real life, just these kind of like ideas really, and he takes them and shapes them and puts them in his stories. So there is an echo of our real life Alex Casey that he has molded into his kind of like hard-boiled detective Alex Casey, which is like just turning the knobs more and exaggerating and going more into that, you know, hard-boiled inspirations in that character. So it was important that this like dark place, it's his fictional character coming to life. And whereas we have this actual FBI agent in Washington with Saga, who does have similarities and potential of like being pushed into that direction, but not quite, and more, more three-dimensional kind of a real person with real person's worries and all of that. So it's part of the whole idea. Like in Dark Place, everything is kind of pushed and exaggerated and stylized kind of further. And allowed me to go back to like I get to write more hard-boiled, narration.
It was so cool because I remember the very first time we get to see Casey in a live action was, or you in live action, was when he's sitting beside Alan, and he has no idea that Alex Casey's right beside me. And David mentions about you, and you do the Max Payne face. And it was wonderful. I was like, no way. It's just one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And so, I remember when I talked to Ilka, he at least believed that there was supposed to be sort of less live action elements in the game. How did that amount of how many live action scenes we can have, did that change over time?
Quantum Break, a huge amount, but we were kind of struggling to find a way and make it all click into place. We dialed it back quite a lot for Control, but we were experimenting a lot with the idea of like blending it on top of the game footage with trench, like phone call visions but also like just like running our own live action productions, like all the Darling videos, doing all of that and having a ton of fun with that. And already then we had Anssi Määttä, who is our live action director and cinematic director, who is wonderful director and really, really great collaborator. Like I love working on the set with Anssi and planning it all, and also our cinematographer Mikko Riikonen. And that was just such a joyful experience with Control that I felt that like we'll do more, and we were discovering things with those blended videos, kind of like layering them in, discovering things on how we should do the lighting to make it like blend in even more, and so there were a lot of learnings and idea of like, let's do all kinds of visions, like Saga's profiling and Wake's visions of inspiration, and we were also like struggling with the amount of cutscenes in the game, like from the production perspective, and finding solutions on like what should we do, how do we get this, like should we outsource more, or should we build our cinematic team into a bigger team to kind of like get all of this. And meanwhile, I was thinking that live action is working just so well. And then at some point, it just dawned on me that the Dark Place experience is meant to be Alan kind of like stumbling through different layers of this reality, kind of out of control. And how do we kind of communicate that to the player? And then it just clicked that like live action, we should do more live action and have these screens in the world that suck you in, and then you are in this scene and he's in this scene and he's confused and we just watch it and then he's put it out at the other end, like lights flickering, and then he's suddenly in the game, and it just felt like, okay, now it feels like there is an idea of how to make this seamless, because it's always a crisis of some sort to switch mediums in an experience. And there is a danger of, whoever is playing or watching is kind of like, what is this? I don't like this. But now it felt like now we have an idea, and then we were shooting. It was such a wonderful experience, like in big part because of Anssi, I feel. But I loved every second of it, like creating that and being there to direct it with him, and going all practical and old fashioned, like actually having a studio and building all the sets to one to what we have in the game, and yeah, it was such a great time, and I love it, and I'm so happy we we did it. I remember relatively early on, there was a meeting with Anssi and Mikko, and I came to the room and I was saying, like, I'm thinking we will have this movie theater, and because we have Tom saying the filmmaker in this, we should do his work, and we'll have a full-length feature film in this. And I remember the panic in their eyes. They were like, this guy is just really insane. And then we were actually like thinking about it and bouncing it around, and it ended up being the short film, which still seems to have taken people by surprise and going like, what, there is an actual film in here? But I'm so happy we did it, and it was a really, really marvelous experience for me acting in it and getting to do it and going through the whole kind of process of creating something like that.
So incredible that you guys did that with Finnish language and did it in such a beautiful way. I was like, no way we are watching a movie in a game.
There is something really interesting in the thing, like I remember when we were making Quantum Break, and there was a lot of worry about the complexity of the story and a lot of worry about kind of like, you know, making sure that everybody understands, and it just felt like that we, like, the whole industry and kind of trends tend to be this pendulum swing, and at that point it was like, let's hold the player's hand and take them through this experience, and afterwards we were feeling, talking with Mikael Kasurinen, that we want to go the other way and more kind of like, let's not explain it, let's make it fragmented. People need to kind of like actively pursue the mystery and put these fragments together and come up with like, what are they actually experiencing? There is some sort of a kind of like interesting psychological thing happening, that when you force some content to the players, they tend to want to have the skip button, like, like I just want. But when you kind of half hide it and make it totally optional, and you can miss it, then it's suddenly a treasure to be found and a secret you discover, and people are like, I want this, and I want to experience this. And that was the idea with the film, that you don't have to watch it. You can just go by. It's not a requirement for anything, but if you do, there are obviously a lot of these twisted mirrors and echoes, which is the theme of the whole thing, for more food for thought and more theories to form around.
Yeah.
And yeah, it seems to have worked really, really nicely.
That was a surprise, and obviously the biggest surprise that everybody just was blown away was the musical, which is something that no one had expected. Preparing that, having that dance, having Matthew and David sing, and then you guys did perform in front of the live audience. And I remember that one point I always remember is the screen comes to you. It was at the last moment of the dance. Camera is right on top of you. And you had the best smile in the entire world. How did all that happen? How that experience was for you?
Oh, yeah, that's so. I remember at Slush Music, I think it was 2016 or something. We did this crazy talking about the songs and music with wonderful Petri Alanko, who is kind of our core composer here, like brilliant scores and soundtrack music. We were on the stage and we did this slow jam session of going through all of our games up to that point, Quantum Break being the latest, and talking about the music and inspiration and songs and all. And at the end of that slow jam presentation, I said that, you know, one day I hope I get to fulfill my dream of making a game that's also a musical. and because like already thinking about these ideas, and we obviously had Take Control in Control. Take control. Yeah. But I was trying to make a musical sequence for that also. Oh, wow. But it got scoped out. Like there was so many ideas and so much things, so it didn't fit in. And I was like, next time, next game. And that's one of these things that I do think that ultimately how the context of it in the dark place, this fever dream to begin with, and the talk show setting and all of these, it was a much better setting than what the ideas were for Control back in the day. We started planning. I was talking with Marco and poets, figuring it out. Like, this should be about, like, if it's the talk show, it's back and forth between Dor as the host and Alan Wake as a guest, and okay, then we'll have Old Gods of Asgard as the studio band, and kind of the chorus, and this is the structure, the idea. Like, we were talking about the inspirations. I remember mentioning Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, let's just make it dramatic and all kinds of parts in it. We had learned a lot from Take Control about the idea of a dynamic song that can have different parts that keep on going longer depending on how the player progresses. And because this is a talk show and he's the guest, it's about him and it's about his life. So we'll have 1, his childhood; 2, him as a celebrity writer rising to fame and having his fall; 3, the story of Alan Wake 1; and 4, his current situation trapped in the dark place. And that's the song. And I was giving some lines, like how we work is like I give a chunk of story, part 1, 2, 3, 4, and some kind of like loose poetry kind of thing that could it say something like this? Could it say something like this? And Marco, who is a very masterful writer of lyrics, like takes that and kind of like does his thing and makes it greater. So that was that part, and it was running on its own. Then separately, we started thinking, like, how do we make this into a mission in the game? And many different ideas. And because we were at that point leaning more into the live action, and because talk show is in live action, that became just a natural element. That can we have it, like, we'll just shoot kind of like music video style from that talk show studio or in the screenplays, like these different segments and parts, and we'll populate the world and you go through it. It's not our usual pipeline. There were times along the way where this mission is falling behind in production because it's more steps and there were the inevitable discussions. So like, can we just cut this, please? Like could we just kind of like not do this? We're like, no, we are doing this. We must do this now. And then ultimately, like through Anssi, we got into contact with Sofia Ruija, who is a wonderful dancer and choreographer here in Finland, and got her involved. That we need a dance. We need to kind of like show all these different parts as if it was a musical. So we need a choreography. And for reference, what I wanted her to look at was the title sequence of Peacemaker, the TV show, which had kind of goofy, clumsy dancing. Like it should be something like this. And the other thing was the kind of the calibration moves of a motion capture session, where you go like T-pose, move your hands, like all of these steps, and that as a video to her, that something like this. And Ilkka will be dancing. He's not a dancer. He's an amateur. I will be dancing. I'm not a dancer. I'm an amateur. It needs to be something that we can learn. And also, like I was saying, like I really hope that this is something that the fans can learn and do their, social media videos of it.
Wow.
And then she provided it, and it was brilliant. And I was absolutely despairing the first weekend getting the videos and trying to learn it. And I was like, I'm never going to learn this. But like repetition. And then have to say, like Jeff Keighley, it's because of him that we were at Game Awards. He contacted us. He wanted it. We were like, we don't think that this can be done. But then we were talking and finding a way, and ultimately that then happened. And it's wonderful. I would never in my life have imagined performing a dance number live on stage, streaming to 118 million people across the world once in a lifetime. Really, really happy that we did it. Like, it was a lot of fun all through the way.
All through the way. It was a lot of fun. I listened to that song so many times. I've shared that song to the people who have never played games. And like, this was in a game, by the way. And they were blown away by like, how? I'm like, it's games?
I just did my final pickup mocap session and recording for the upcoming DLC. From my part, it's a wrap for me performing as an actor. DLC is being made as we speak here, but I'm gonna go on a bit of a break now. Like it's been so intense for a number of years. And it feels like now is the right time to just kind of like take it easy and also recharge and find new inspirations for the future. So far, it feels like this musical thing we've been able to. I have no idea. We'll think about it. Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely understand that. You would need that recharging time. And you know, you spoke about DLC, and I know that nothing you can talk about it, but what can we expect, if anything, that you can say from the DLC that is hopefully coming out sometime soon?
Well, the first one is called Night Springs. Especially if you play through New Game Plus version of the game. We have some Night Springs related videos. So that's already out there. When the chapter songs of the game came out, there is also one track that's not in the game called Night Springs. I would say that there is already plenty to look into and speculate. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Wow.
And the other DLC is called The Lake House. And with the FBC presence in the main game, there is talk about the Lake House being the FBC research station by Cauldron Lake. So
got it.
That's all I'm gonna say. But I think that there is kind of logical things already to be found related to this.